All right, everybody, how are we doing? So, first of all, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody that is, I guess just everybody. Even if you're not American, why does that matter? Happy Thanksgiving to the world. I wonder, do people in other countries not know what Thanksgiving is? I'm sure you guys do, right? You guys watch movies and stuff? Yeah, a little bit late. Right in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner for me, says Louis Summers. Is that good or bad? Are you eating Thanksgiving dinner in front of your computer? I would, well, I was considering, so I had nothing to do for Thanksgiving today. Did not fly home to see my family. As you guys know, I saw my family a couple weeks back. I was back in Maryland. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. And did a Friendsgiving with friends, obviously, this last weekend. So today I have nothing. I do know something that's being hosted right now, but I'm missing it for this stream, so it's just the way it is. But I considered buying a Thanksgiving dinner catered from a restaurant because I had nothing today. Hurring Lyrics 44, thanks for the gray wall. I like the gray wall. Who likes the gray wall? Everyone likes the gray wall, right? I like the gray wall. I think the only thing bad about the gray wall is the part that's not gray. The white trim on the door needs to be turned gray. Tom says, Morj, you've asked that question about Thanksgiving for the past 3 years now. That's crazy. I can't believe that, I bring that up every time and then I forget every time. Does anybody, what's the answer? Maybe I'll remember it this time. Tall Camel says, I'm thankful for your defense of Dragon, much needed in this community. You have a weird name. Tall Camel? How'd you think of that? And I'll defend him again. Unless it's got to do with the Sabo newspaper situation, which I think was dumb. But Dragon's a cool character, potentially. We really don't know yet, but he's potentially a cool character. It's one of those things where as I was writing the video, I was kind of agreeing with it as I went with it. Does that make sense? Because I'm writing the video, and then I'm getting more annoyed. I'm like, wait a second. Yeah, how come no one else gives a fuck about the Celestial Dragons? Each arc, especially this arc, are reading more and more about all the other crazy shit the Celestial Dragons do. They do this to islands all the time, and I'm just like, Whitebeard, Shanks, Luffy, these bums, they don't care. Literally, how come we don't, in any other story, it's just whatever you're reading Star Wars, you're like, yeah, they're part of the rebellion. Good shit. You're part of the rebellion. They're trying to fight back against this evil empire that's doing stuff. And, Han Solo goes off and does his own thing, and everyone's like, Han, that's not a nice thing. You should be helping fight the rebellion. And then his character arc is turning around to go help fight the rebellion, right? That's episode 4, right? But in One Piece, it's just a done deal. It's just a bunch of fucking Han Solos flying around. And then there's only one dude in the entire world that's been trying to actually fight the world government for so long. It's kind of insane when you think about it. We've just accepted that, yeah, the pirates, they don't really care. Shanks is a really good guy from what we can tell. Whitebeard's a really good guy. But they ultimately aren't that good. They ultimately aren't that good. They ultimately don't really, they're selectively altruistic is what I said in the video. And that's basically the case. It's kind of just, Oda doesn't embellish it as much because he doesn't want to make us think that Luffy's, we're trying to feel like these characters, the Struts, etc., that we're following, Whitebeard, Shanks, they're good characters. But if you just put them in the framework of any other fictional story that involves an oppressive empire, it's what the fuck are these guys doing? Whitebeard had a whole fucking armada that was always they're they could have made efforts. They always could have made a lot of efforts towards going up against the world government. We know that because Dragon's done it, right? Imagine if the world government had to deal with the Dragon Revolutionary Army and Whitebeard in his prime Revolutionary Army and Shanks Revolutionary Army, right? There's literally a quote when the world government, the Gorosei, are talking about Shanks meeting Whitebeard. They're like, oh, we don't need to worry about Shanks. He's not a man who's interested in trying to change the world. And at the time, I didn't care. I was like, yeah, cool, he's a pacifist. Now I'm like, fuck that dude. What the fuck? You're just gonna chill and sit back and like you don't have to go fight the world government even, but you can try and go save some islands that are fucking under oppression or something like that. You can do some stuff, you know. Goa Kingdom got burned for no reason. Like, who showed up to save Goa Kingdom? Dragon. You think anybody else is showing up to save these islands? It's actually kind of insane. I don't know. Maybe I think Dragon needs another video down the line, because there's more stuff to say about him. But yeah, it's just like, it's so bizarre. People are like, Dragon didn't save Ginny. It's like, dude, Dragon went and saved everybody in Goa Kingdom. He goes and like, they go and save so many people. The Shanks, Whitebeard, Luffy, they don't go and save people. They'll save them if they're their friends, but that's it. It's just insane. Tom, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months. Missed the last stream, but I've been a fan since the Whole Cake Island video. Since then, I completed all of high school, started college, and got my first/current girlfriend. Oh, I'm sorry you missed the last stream, but everybody was recounting little stories of when they first started watching, etc. I know you've been around for quite some time, Tom, and it's cool that you've gone through like a lot of good, important phases of your life over the course of following this channel. So that's cool that you stuck with it. You know, you still enjoy watching this channel, reading One Piece, etc. through thick and thin, right? Acrylic YouTube, thanks for the 30. Holy shit. Hi Morj, I'm 8. What's a human centipede? You mentioned it last stream. Don't ask me that. Just go home. I'm sure you can find it on some streaming service probably. Maybe it's not legally allowed on a streaming service. Just go check it out on your own time. Don't look up anything about it. Just watch it. Gio, thanks for the 5. People still don't get Dragon or the difference between a pirate or a revolutionary. If Dragon acted on impulse like Luffy, the revolutionary army wouldn't be here. Exactly. Also, people forget Luffy gets lucky as fuck. Like, the reason they survived going to Enies Lobby to save Robin was because their ship came back to life and sailed out to sea to save them. You think shit like that just happens? You think shit like that just happens like every other day? You think they could really bank on shit like that happening every time? They do, but it's not supposed to happen. Like, keep that in mind. This shit's not easy. Will of Davy, thanks for the 10. The Dragon vid was so true, to be honest. It's always he didn't go after Ginny, and never recognizing that the revs back then are spread across the world like current Marines are. My man bided his time. Thank you for saying that. I will say one thing, which is I do hope that Oda gives us like a really solid in-depth breakdown of Dragon's perspective on everything to kind of just hear some of it from his own thoughts. Because it's like, you know, we could make all these assumptions, then we cut to Dragon, and then at some point Dragon's just like, you know, I'd really like to save Ginny, but I'm too scared to do it or something. I don't know, like, there's things that he could say that would make it less defensible, I suppose. Like, I'd really like to save Ginny, but nah, fuck that. Like, I don't know, there's ways that it could come across that maybe make it less defensible, but at the moment it's just like, come on, Dragon's the only guy in the One Piece world that's going around actually saving people, you know? It's like, why do we hold it? Like, he doesn't do one thing that Whitebeard, Shanks, and Luffy would do, but he does all this other really good stuff that they don't do at all, and suddenly he's the bad guy, just because we're used to these characters doing these things. But we forget that there's other shit that they're supposed to be doing or should do if they're actually good people, and Dragon does that, right? It's just holding different characters to random standards. Yeah, being a pirate is just trying to avoid their system altogether, which is fine. You're not like a bad or good guy for being a pirate, but you're certainly not, you know, you're several tiers below wherever Dragon is in terms of general moral standing. African Lays, thanks for the 5. Happy Thanksgiving, Mr. Morj. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. This is my first super chat. I was wondering if you can do a top 10 all-time strongest characters in One Piece. That's really difficult. I could do one off the top of my head. I'll say, I'll just say, this is not heavily ranked, but I'll say characters that would be in there. Joy Boy, Imu, Ryuma, I think we could probably throw those guys in. Roger, Whitebeard, Rocks, probably. I assume Rocks makes the top whatever. So that's a 6, and then the rest gets complicated, because then the rest is just like, where do the Gorosei fit in? Yeah, where do Gorosei fit in? You've got a bunch of characters. You got Shanks, Kaido, Mihawk, Dragon. Like, somebody's getting left out here. Oh, Garp. I forgot to mention Garp, right? So, I mean, let's say off the top, right? Characters that definitely make it. Joy Boy, Imu, Ryuma, Roger, Whitebeard, Rocks, Garp. So there's like 7 characters that are definitely in it in my mind from characters that we know of. And then it's tricky because you've only got 3 spots, but then you've got so many characters competing for those 3, and it depends how you view them. Like Kaido, Shanks, Dragon, Mihawk, like some of the Gorosei. It's tricky at that point. Some people might argue Akainu. I don't think Akainu necessarily. I don't know. Big Mom even. Akainu, if Akainu's gotten some sort of a boost. I don't think Akainu makes it if he's at the level that we previously saw of being like 0.1% stronger than Aokiji, you know? Because I don't think Aokiji's like the 11th strongest character in history, you know what I mean? So I don't think Akainu's cracking the top 10 if he's just Aokiji's level. So if Akainu got a bit of a boost, which I think is very likely to be fair, then maybe Akainu's in there. But I don't know. There's 7 characters I think are solidly in there, and then after that it gets hazy. A lot of characters competing. Titanium Dragon, thanks for the 10. Admiral Devilfruit theory is strange since so many seem to find these OP Devilfruit. Also, Saturn's title now makes sense with him changing the Pacifista to weapon. Yeah. Wonder how the other Gorosei have affected the world. Yeah, that is really interesting to think about. It is definitely interesting to think about. People are saying no Luffy. I don't think Luffy's in there until he can sustain Gear 5th for longer. Like, Luffy at his peak, it's the same situation as, like, with Luffy with Gear 4th for a while. Like, Luffy post Dressrosa was like, okay, when he's got Gear 4th, he's clearly at least stronger than Doflamingo. But how long can he sustain that for, etc.? It's tricky. Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. Luffy versus Kaido vid, Garp vid, and then Dragons vid. Morj is the Monkey D family's attorney. Love the videos. Congrats on 200k. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, I mean, like, look, the Monkey D family's pretty badass. And I like that the family is pretty varied now that you think about it. I view Dragon as kind of the black sheep of the family, just personality-wise, goals-wise, morality-wise, etc. He seems very different than Luffy and Garp. Luffy and Garp seem remarkably similar, but they just picked such wildly different paths, which obviously puts them at odds with each other and has them, like, their mentality about certain things is just fundamentally different. So I think the Monkey D family is just a lot of fun to read about. And it's cool to have a character like Luffy and then see older iterations of him and how different they are. Bruno Cabral, thanks for the 5. With Dragon as one of their 2 favorites with Luffy, seeing your Dragon video only left me with one thing to say. Put some respect on Dragon and Morj. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. I hope the Dragon video keeps picking up steam because I just think that's an important one to watch for a lot of people because it's just, I don't know. There's no other character like Dragon in the story, so it's weird seeing people call him a fraud when it's like, he's the he's the only one that's really not acted like a fraud his entire life. I saw some meme on Twitter about Dragon being a fraud again today, and I thought it was funny, but at the same time, I was like, I do hope the video reaches more people. Knut Worgen, thanks for the 5. This chapter with Dragon just makes his moment of anger against Sabo seem like it was just out of character. He didn't believe Kuma was a tyrant at all. That's what I'm fucking saying, man. I've talked about this before. The newspaper moment. This is like Bizarro World, because back when the newspaper shit came out, and I was going off for so long about how stupid this is for Dragon, how he's a shitty character, or like shitty writing or whatever for it, and people were like, no, and then they came up with a million different excuses. And now that it's the other way around and people are insulting Dragon for something totally different, and now I'm defending it a bunch during a period of time where everyone's shitting on Dragon, and people are actually right now coming around and being like, you know what, the newspaper situation was fucked too. How come he thought that about the newspaper thing with Sabo? And exactly, like the Kuma being a tyrant thing, it's exactly the same thing. I don't know. It's just whatever the vibe people are feeling at the moment is, you know? Just people are on board with hating on a character or not on board with hating on a character. Things just change. Retro Records, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months. Hey Morj, happy Thanksgiving. I was wondering when the next collab will be since you don't want to attend more reveries. I will attend any reverie I will attend a reverie as long as it's by somebody that came to my reverie, because that's just the polite thing to do. I think I've complained about going to reveries, but I usually somewhat enjoy them once I go to them. I had a lot of fun at King Recon's reverie. As for when the next collab will be, I guess it'll be when somebody invites me. That's basically it. I'm not super interested in inviting somebody, but if somebody invites me, I'm usually good with it, unless it's like Unless it's someone I don't really know at all, I guess, or I'm not interested in interacting with their channel for whatever reason. I don't know. But, you know, usually someone that I mildly know, or I'm on somewhat friendly terms with, I'm good with doing a collab. Like, usually. Usually. Koriev, thanks for the 5. Morj, that dragon vid you did was probably the best One Piece content I've seen in years. Serious S tier. Oh, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. One thing that's tricky is I've been trying to figure out how to label that video, because I went with No One Understands Dragon, but initially it was No One Understands Dragon's Philosophy. Which one do you guys think is more interesting? I might just keep it what it is. Kartiki Malik, thanks for the 5. Whitebeard is center-right, trying to maintain the order and not going for Pirate King. Shanks is fully centrist, Dragon is left, Kaido and Big Mom are center-left. I don't know if that applies to the One Piece world in those terms. Like, how are Kaido and Big Mom center-left? I guess I can kind of understand. No, I kind of understand. Christian, thanks for the 5. Shanks has his own safe haven islands. We know he doesn't tax Morj, doing way more than Dragon. What? Having a few safe haven islands is not the same as literally going throughout the world, freeing islands one after another. Like, Dragon's scope is everywhere. Shanks' scope is a few islands where he, what does he do? He doesn't tax. Good shit, Shanks. You've got, like, 10 islands, maybe, out of the 4,000 islands in the One Piece world. Let's be generous. Let's say Shanks has 20 islands in just the New World, the tiniest little strip of ocean in the sea, and he owns only a little portion of the New World, and he doesn't tax those islands. A lot of good he's doing. We've seen what Shanks does day after day. Shanks fucking sits around partying and drinking. We have cut to him enough times to know that that's what Shanks does. That's how we were fucking introduced to him in chapter 1. He and his crew, they party, they go to weddings, they sit around, they drink. The very first time we see them, once the story is actually started, what's Shanks doing? Is he actually, it's back to back. It's fucking back to back. This is so fucking funny. All right, it literally happens in the span of the same chapter. It's the same chapter. All right, same chapter. We can do a quick compare contrast of what Shanks is up to versus what Dragon is up to. Same chapter. All right. This is chapter 96, so the story's getting rolling. All right, so what Dragon is up to, all right, so Nami's reading the news. What's she reading in the news, huh? Let's see what Nami's reading in the news. Ah, another revolution. Interesting, another coup d'etat in Villa. Coup d'etat? Coup d'etat in Villa, right? So we're reading about a revolution. Dragon's about to show up. That's why we're reading about revolutions. And then, what's Shanks up to? Let's see if we can find out what Shanks is up to. Oh, this bum is fucking hungover. That's what he's doing. Hey everyone, what are we gonna do next? Oh, let's drink some more. It's time for a party. Weren't you just grumbling about your hangover just now? You dumbass, how can a man not drink on a dip? Come on now. Come on, this is Shanks' life, and that's Dragon's life. They're two very, very different lives. Two very, very different lives. That's Shanks, and then this is Dragon, right? Dragon's actually out and about, doing shit. This is the only bit of fatherly love that Dragon has ever showed in the story. Saying bye to his son once. This is the only time Dragon has ever helped out Luffy. People are talking about how Dragon didn't help out Ginny. He never even helped out Luffy. He helped out Luffy once at the moment that he's showing up just to say bye. This is the only time. After that, it's sayonara. His own kid has been doing God knows what for 20 years, and Dragon doesn't give a fuck about him for the next, 3 years either. Luffy might have died in Marineford, doesn't matter. Dragon does not give a shit about his own son. What is he supposed to do about Ginny? Anyway, this is the difference between Dragon's life and Shanks' life. Dragon's orchestrating revolutions in Vera and shit, while Shanks is sitting around drinking. And you know what he does when he's done drinking and has a hangover? He starts drinking again. That's the life of a pirate. It is very, very different than the life of a revolutionary. Some people have shit to do. Audicio, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months. Missed the stream earlier this week and got a bounce. Want to say congrats on 200k. Thank you very much. I definitely appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Daniel Chukwudum, another congrats on 200k and can't really catch streams. I'm UK based. Don't even worry about that, man. I appreciate you dropping in and just being able to say anything. But always watch the VODs at work. Genuinely makes my day better. I appreciate it, bro. Let me check what time it is in the UK to see what you're up to right now. UK time. 2:05 a.m. No, that's not that bad. I stay up to 2 pretty often. All right, you get some sleep now, though, Daniel. I appreciate it. The practical one. Thanks for the 10. Dragon slander won't end until he shows competency. Yeah, I agree. He does need to seem competent. He hasn't. That's one thing he's never done. He's never seemed competent. His heart's in the right place. He's organized good stuff, but he himself doesn't do that much. And also, he's extremely gullible when it comes to. I guess he's fine when the newspaper says some shit about Kuma, but I guess he's gullible when it comes to photos. He saw that photo of Sabo. Photos are his weakness. He doesn't understand him. Never picked up the technology. Let's get the likes up to 200 real quick. He didn't even properly liberate Sorbet, and Yeah, I guess so. And if Kuma didn't go back, the island fails. False. His army is ultimately going to play second to Luffy. Yeah, I think ultimately the reality is we all know this is the direction it's headed. Luffy is going to steal Dragon's Thunder. It's just the way shit goes. No matter what, it doesn't really matter how long a character has had a certain plan or goal, or how long they've been working towards some sort of mission or rebellion or whatever. Ultimately, Luffy's going to be the one to take it. And it's the same everywhere you go, right? Wiper in Skypiea, Law in Dressrosa, Kiros in Dressrosa. The samurai and the scabbards, etc., welcomed Luffy's help, but I mean, them too. They show up on the rooftop. They plan this whole rebellion and shit. They show up. They're like, we're gonna take out Kaido. 6 chapters later, Luffy is up there patting them on the back, being like, all right, you guys tap out. We'll take it from here. You guys, your heart was in the right place. But that's just the way it should go. It's the same in every single arc. Dalton, etc. Eric Tolado says, Shanks is obviously waiting for Joy Boy. So why does that mean that Shanks can't go around helping people in the meantime? Like, Dragon showed up at Goa Kingdom and saved a lot of people who were dying at Goa Kingdom. Why is Shanks unable to do something like that in the meantime? That's not an excuse for just sitting idle in the... Like, you can't just sit on your ass drinking day and night while you are one of the most powerful and influential characters in the world, and there are countless islands with millions of people dying due to celestial dragon oppression, nobles oppression, etc., injustice everywhere, and be like, well, it's not my job, it's Joy Boy's job, and I already accidentally made sure that the fruit got eaten by Joy Boy, even though it was on accident, but I did it, so I get the next 25 years off. That's the Shanks mentality. Don't even compare that dude to Dragon. You can say he's stronger than Dragon. That's its own discussion, right? But let's not get into who's a better person, or who's on a better mission, or who's living their life with actual meaning and purpose. The practical one, thanks for the 10, although message redacted. I don't really know what that was, but you know. Sin says because he's a pirate. Yeah, exactly. He picked the pirate life. Like, this is not really it's you can't just say I'm a pirate and that absolves me of all moral responsibility. It's like, oh yeah, you're a pirate. You chose not to be a hero. You chose to be a pirate. That's cool. You're a pirate, but you know, you're not as good of a person as Dragon. You're not a hero like Dragon. You're just a dude, you know? L, thanks for the 5 gifted memberships. Really, really appreciate it. Romajin, say thanks. Shaq, say thanks. Jacob, say thanks. Amar Shamshian, say thanks. Agusi Soup, say thanks. I appreciate it. I didn't used to think about Shanks and such like that until literally I was thinking about Dragon, and I was like, this is actually insane. We see the Celestial Dragons doing all this crazy shit. We know all the crazy shit that's happened between, you know, Goa, Ohara, all of this stuff. We see it happen all the fucking time. Bekori, right? Shanks doesn't care. Whitebeard doesn't care. Even Luffy. It's pretty insane. Luffy right now could do so much in theory. He has an ancient weapon, Shirahoshi. And Frankie literally offers him, hey, you want another ancient weapon? I could build you Pluton. Luffy right now could have 2 nuclear weapons of mass destruction aimed at the world government, but he doesn't feel like it because he's going after the One Piece. Now, we know Luffy has some other dream, so we're kind of going to cut him some slack. But at the end of the day, Luffy has all this power, resources, abilities, etc. Like, the Revolutionary Army would kill to have fucking Pluton and Shirahoshi on their side. I wonder what the fuck they could do with Pluton, the progress they could make with Pluton. Luffy's got it. He doesn't care because that's just not, you know, that would kind of kill the adventure vibe. So it's just something to think about, you know? These characters at the end of the day, when they say we're not heroes, Luffy says I'm not a hero, we got to take him at his word. Luffy's a great person. It's hard to explain. Like, he's a great person overall, but that doesn't mean he's a hero. And when Oda explained that initially in the story, it seems a little weird for readers, but it really makes sense when you look at his actions and think about, like, what would a truly heroic person do versus what would just a really kind-hearted person do. And that's fine. I think the story is obviously much better. This is not a knock on Luffy. You see a million protagonists in stories like Dragon, right? Like, there's so many stories where you got some revolutionary figure trying to lead a rebellion, right? One Piece is unique, and it's One Piece because Luffy is the main character, and Luffy is not falling into that traditional hero mold. That's what makes One Piece such a refreshing, it's just a breath of fresh air to follow a character that's like, I want to go on adventures first and foremost. I will do the right thing when I feel like it, when it's, affecting, my experiences through my adventures, right? When it's something personal to me. But besides that, I'm a free spirit and I'm going to do what I want. That is awesome. I'm not condemning that whatsoever for One Piece. It makes One Piece a much, much, much more unique, different story with a much more, for me, not interesting, but like cut from a different cloth type of protagonist. I like that a lot. But if you want to compare like who's a better person, like you just can't be calling Dragon a fraud, because then at that point it's like, why do we hold Dragon to this standard, which is he's already doing so much more than any of these other characters and cares so much more than any of these other characters. You know what I mean? If we're going to call Dragon a fraud, then we got to start calling Shanks a fraud for just drinking all day and waiting around for Joy Boy. We got to call Whitebeard a fraud for sitting on his ass during his entire prime and just taking care of his little family. We got to call Luffy a fraud for having all the fucking resources in the world to actually cause major damage to the world government right now, or be a major problem, or at least have it handed off to somebody else. And he literally could not put two brain cells together to think about how it should properly be used or how he could actually help people with it. He's just like, fuck it, not relevant to my adventure, let's keep it moving. Good Life, thanks for the 5. Dragon's gonna hit us with some classic Stalin quotes when he heard his son was captured by Nazis. Why should I exchange an officer for a general? Let's not assume exactly what Dragon's gonna talk like just yet, but it's funny to think about. Joyboy56, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months. Top 5 strongest right now, in my opinion. Dragon, Mihawk, Shanks, Akainu, Kuzan. I'm confused how people still have Aokiji in their top. Like, one, how do you not have Imu in there? You don't think any Gorosei crack the top 5? I don't know. And 2, I don't think, like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know how people have Aokiji in there, considering to me, I think, like, I felt like Garp got the better of Garp looked better than Aokiji in their fight. I don't really know what people used to put Aokiji above Garp right there, because if you read the fight, Aokiji was the one that came out looking worse, right? Garp, it took basically lots of outside interference and Garp being stabbed and sneak attacked by lots of Blackbeard pirates for Aokiji to actually take him out. But every time they actually interacted, Garp won their interactions, or it was a tie. I guess there was one moment where they both punched each other, but aside from that, it was either Garp like threw Aokiji into the ocean first, then Aokiji comes back, he's injured, they punch each other, so that's a draw right there. And then after that, Garp speed blitzes Aokiji, and then after that, the fight's over because Garp can't handle the entire Blackbeard pirates and he's been injured at that point. So I don't really know how people put, like, what's the argument for Aokiji above Garp there? Sam Oguntoyunbo says Kuzan wasn't trying. Why wasn't he trying? Why wasn't he trying? Like, what's the evidence that he wasn't trying? If you want to say Kuzan wasn't trying, I could just say Garp. One, we know Garp wasn't trying because Garp never hit Aokiji with Advanced Conqueror's Haki. He never used a we know what he could have hit Aokiji with, which was a Galaxy Impact, but Garp didn't. So we know for a fact that Garp was not trying against Kuzan, right? And Garp had to fight all the other Blackbeard pirates at the same time, and he was dealing with a stab wound from a Yonko first mate sneak attacking him. So we know that Garp is, like, we factually know that Garp was not going all out or even close against Aokiji. So what's the other way around? What's the argument for Aokiji holding back? No Awakening? That's fair. Yeah, Aokiji didn't use Awakening on Garp, so that's the one thing we can assume he has in his pocket. But Garp didn't use Advanced Conqueror's Haki on Aokiji, and we know that that's a bigger deal than Devil Fruit Awakening, right? Advanced Conquerors Haki is significantly, like, it's just been established in the story at this point that top tier Advanced Conquerors Haki is the strongest ability in the series. So Garp not using that, Aokiji not using Awakening, one is more potent than the other, and based on what we already saw, Garp had the upper hand. Like, what's the argument for Aokiji there? He did use Advanced Conquerors Haki. I'm talking. Okay, I guess I meant my mistake. My mistake. I should not. I should be more clear at the very least. He didn't use any of his. Like his. I guess what I'm saying is, like, he didn't use Galaxy Impact. Like, he didn't use his actual Advanced Conquerors Haki techniques that he could kind of use. You know what I mean? We can pull the fight up because maybe I'm misremembering, but I remember. I don't remember him using Galaxy Impact, like the actual impressive stuff that he can do. Daniel Kwan says if you don't have Advanced Conquerors Haki, you ain't top 5. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when you're asking who are the top 10 strongest in history, I'm just like... Akainu and Aokiji, they're not going to crack top 10 strongest in history if they don't even have Advanced Conquerors Haki, you know what I mean? Yeah, let's pull up the fight. Wait, let me catch these supers first, and then we'll talk about the fight. Also, let's get the likes up to 200 real quick. Julian says Garp didn't use his supers. Yeah. Sogeking says Garp can only do one Galaxy Impact. If he can only... I mean, he does something similar to Pizarro. And if he can only use one, it's like, okay, well then replay the fight with Garp being allowed to use that one and not just on buildings and shit. Garp forgot to take Viagra before the fight, says Sogeking. Stormfox, thanks for the 2. Eva basically built a base and made an army in jail. Yeah, Eva's a commander. Eva does get disrespected, I think, quite a bit. But I think Eva's one of the stronger characters in the series. Just not, not like Yonko first mate level, but Ivankov is probably comfortably a Yonko commander level character, right? Right? I would think. Pina Colada time, thanks for the 5. Happy Thanksgiving, Morj. If Luffy isn't the true hero of One Piece and Dragon is the hero, what message is Oda trying to convey with Luffy's character? Luffy always plays the role of the hero. He always plays the role of the hero, right? He steps up to play that role. But he's not, like, he's not in the outside world definition of a hero, and Luffy himself acknowledges that. There's a difference between playing the role of a hero and being a heroic individual yourself, right? There's plenty of characters you can see in stories that are much morally darker than Luffy that end up playing the role of the protagonist or whatever. As for what Oda's trying to convey with Luffy's character, on the one hand, Oda's never trying to communicate the idea that Luffy's like the perfect person. However, the one thing that Oda always, and here's the more interesting thing, right? By having Luffy be a character that's not moving forward with some sort of greater moral agenda, what Oda's really trying to do in the story is basically have Luffy be a free-spirited, independent thinker with a kind heart. So anytime Luffy comes across an individual island, right, and an individual context or situation, right, Luffy is able to see through what is the just and unjust in this situation and identify that despite whatever, who's in charge, who's saying what, who's making the rules or whatever, Luffy's able to kind of just clearly see it at the heart of it and be like, no, this is right, this is wrong, therefore I'm going to do this, and I'm going to help this person instead of that person, right? So that's kind of the pure mentality and idea behind Luffy, and it's simplistic, but by keeping it simplistic, it allows Oda to enter into all of these situations without Luffy already having an agenda, because the idea is that you're supposed to be able to think for yourself and just follow what you understand your code of justice to be able to identify what's right and wrong. At the same time, Luffy's not moving forward through the world with some sort of greater philosophy of what he should be doing. Because if he did that, then that kind of simplifies and dumbs down the story of One Piece a little bit in a way, because it's kind of just like, it would just be Luffy going to island after island saying like, we got to free these people, or do this or do that or whatever, right? It's more so just Luffy's what each person should strive to be, which is anywhere you go, right? You don't need to be traveling the world with some sort of great agenda or something like that. Anywhere you go, you should be able to think for yourself and identify for yourself what is and isn't just, what is or is right or isn't right, and act accordingly in that situation. So that's the concept of Luffy, right? He's not a grand idealist, and that's not the message of the story, that's what you need to be. The message of the story is freedom in every sense, but it also means freedom to be able to recognize right and wrong in every situation without just subscribing to whatever is being taught down to you or told to you or dictated to you. Peak Fiction, welcome to the Yarn Code. Thanks very much. Look out for the podcast coming out this Friday. Stormfox, thanks for the 5. Vegapunk is the smartest man alive. Unfortunately, he also has less common sense than Luffy. Yeah, I mean, intelligence is different. I mean, there's different types of intelligence, obviously. Vegapunk is obviously, in terms of the STEM field, the smartest man alive. But there's plenty of characters that are probably wiser than Vegapunk, right? Intelligence just comes in different forms. But for Vegapunk, if you want to talk STEM, right? Vegapunk's number 1. L, thanks for the 5. Love the dragon video. People got to put some respect on his name. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. The Practical One, thanks for the 5. Also, building off my last comment and what you said, Dragon ultimately won't be him. And by the time we focus on him, Luffy and Sabo are up next. Sabo's role is interesting. I do hope that Dragon is able to play a major role, but we ultimately know that he's not going to get to do the thing that he has been working towards doing, which is being the... I mean, he won't care, right? I'm sure he just wants to see the world freed, but he won't be the one to do it. He will likely pave the way in many ways still, though, right? Dressrosa wouldn't have been freed without Kiros and his efforts and his planning. Same with Law. Goes both ways. Law, everything he did with Punk Hazard, through the battle in Dressrosa, that was all crucial. It was all mostly Law's plan. Luffy was just able to do it, right? The final step, the final hardest step. Same with Wiper in Skypiea, you know? The battle was generally won by the Shandians, and Luffy wouldn't even have been able to make it up the beanstalk to fight NL if not for Wiper paving the way for him. But ultimately, it comes down to Luffy being the one to do it. Same with the Samurai and Wano, same with everything, right? It's just the way shit goes. But I don't know what Saba's going to do exactly. I hope that... I'm cool with Dragon's role being usurped by Luffy, but I don't want Dragon's role to be... I hope that Oda has 2 separate roles planned for Dragon and Sabo and all this. Bruna Cabral, thanks for the 10. Luffy releases hundreds of serial murderers, rapists, and terrorists just to save his brothers. Fans, I sleep. Dragon doesn't save one friend to focus on saving the entire world. Fans, real shit. Yeah, that's basically it. That's basically it. Patricio Zabrano, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 8 months. Hi, Morj, hope you're doing good. Another week of peak. Yeah, still loving the flashback, even if this chapter in particular wasn't a... It's hard to top last chapter, obviously, but the next couple chapters should get kind of crazy. You think Dragon is finally appearing next chapter? What did you think about him this chapter? Next chapter, it's chapter 1100. I feel like... You think the flashback ends next chapter? Let me do a little poll. Do you think the flashback ends next chapter? Okay, no, let me say this. Do you think we cut back to the present by the end of next chapter? So by that I mean like you're asking, will Dragon return next chapter? You're saying to the modern day Egghead, right? For that to happen, we would need to get the flashback has to wrap like 15, 16 pages into the next chapter so we could see Dragon or whoever at Egghead next chapter. J-Cod says, you seem tired, Morj. I am a little bit tired. That's definitely true. I'm a little bit tired. Okay, so most people think it interesting. I think that it could end next chapter. I mean, because there's only really one major thing left, right? So we saw everything we know about Kuma's life. We saw slave, born a slave, became a revolutionary, adopted Ginny, right? We saw him become a king. We saw him become a pirate. Then we saw him offer to give up his... no, not give up. We saw him offer to become a prototype model, right? So the last thing we need to see is basically his enslavement and slowly becoming a cyborg. Does that all happen next chapter? Probably. But I don't think I think we would spend the entire chapter on it. I don't feel like we would cut back to the present midway through it, because I feel like that's a fairly dramatic scene. It's like a bit of a dramatic sequence, so I don't know. Sorry, just catching up. Elsa, thanks for the 10. Top 3 underrated characters in One Piece. Oh, that's a good question. It's just one. I feel like I've been asked that before. I always say Wiper is number 1 for me. I say Wiper is number 1. I used to say Frankie, but now I don't think he's underrated because, like, once upon a time I would have said Frankie. Now I don't think he's underrated because he doesn't do that much at this point. So you can't call him underrated if he's if he's living up to how people consider him. Maybe you could throw Ivankov in there. I think Ivankov's a great character. Ivankov's just kind of wacky, so people don't. I don't know. Underrated characters. At one point, I would have said. At one point, I said Momonosuke, but people seem to really like Momonosuke by the end of Wano. I think the redesign really helped. I'd have to dig deep. Like, I would have to really go back through the story to say someone's an underrated character. I think Koza's a cool character, but I wouldn't say underrated. Yeah, I mean, there's so many cool side characters throughout all of One Piece. What about a main character that's underrated? Overrated, you got Trafalgar Law. But if we stick to underrated, I think Capone Beige is really cool. I think Capone Beige is dope. I'd have to think longer. I'll say those two for now. Maybe I'll think of who I want as my third option by the end. Good Life, thanks for the 5. Dragon hearing about Ginny. 1 death is a tragedy. 1 million is a statistic. Yeah. World government, print is the sharpest and strongest weapon of our party. Yeah. The thing you've said about Ginny is true, which is just, you know, it's easier to think about, like, oh, he didn't save that one friend, when it's really like, okay, there's so many fucking characters that, I mean, it's the entire world that you're trying to save, right? Joyboy56, thanks for the 2. Kuzan and Akainu portrayed to be equals. Yeah, I agree. Again, I just don't think... Oh, no, we're pulling up this fight. Okay, I still got supers to catch up on, but let's just take a quick look at this fight. When did it start? When did the raid on... When did he start doing shit at Hachinosu? Does anyone know? When did he start doing shit at Hachinosu? Stanley Barton, I'll just address this real quick. How could Akainu be top 5 if he barely above Aokiji in terms of strength and doesn't have Conqueror's Haki? Also, if he has Conqueror's Haki, how did it take him 10 days to win? My belief is that Akainu would have advanced Conqueror's Haki by the end of the story. Either it bloomed during Aokiji's fight, or he gains it by the end of the story. I know that is very, very, very headcanon-y. However, I think it does fit with the direction that Akainu's character seems to be going, which is more and more at odds with, like, for example, you have someone like Kizaru who's very content to just do whatever he's told. Akainu seems to be more and more at odds with his superiors and what his role currently is, and having to bow down to the Gorosei, whereas what he would like to do. As well as the fact that he's fleet admiral. He seems to be elevated status narratively in terms of the type of obstacle he's supposed to be down the road. Sengoku, Garp, like the previous top-level Marines were able to develop Advanced Conqueror's Haki. I wouldn't be... Akainu is basically a huge asterisk, which is what we've seen of him. I wouldn't put him top 5 because I don't really have Aokiji there, and Akainu and Aokiji are... They're essentially exactly the same, right? It's really hard to argue that there's any sort of like significant difference whatsoever between them, right? However strong you think, I think it's almost impossible to argue that a character beats Aokiji but loses to Akainu. You could, but it's just such an absurd argument to make because there's almost no difference. If it's a 10-day fight dead even, it's basically exactly equal, right? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so I'm saying what we saw of Akainu and Aokiji, like what we know of them, I would say that I wouldn't be able to put Akainu above characters like, you know, like Shanks, like Kaido, like Dragon, stuff like that, based on what we've seen of, like what we know. But I'm saying that I think the direction that we're going, kind of like, you know, we assume that Blackbeard will be stronger by the end of things than we've seen so far. I'm kind of giving that benefit of the doubt to Akainu as well. That's all. What chapter do they fight? Like 1080s? 80s? Is it 1080s? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Like, if I'm being honest, Garp seems stronger than Aokiji based on what I saw. I just don't really see what puts... So if we look at the fight, right? Let's look at the fight. Where does the fight start? Where's the fight? What's going on? Fuck. Where did the fight start? Was it 1082? 83? 82? Come on, man. 81? Yeah, here we go. Alright. I'll catch supers in 1 second. I know I'm behind on a few. Sorry. Alright, so we're here. We're looking. We're here. We're looking. Alright. Garp shows up. Galaxy Impact. This is easily the most impressive hockey attack that we've ever seen in the story. Nobody else does hockey feats like this, right? Who else does there's no hockey feat that anybody has done like this. Like, let's be very, very clear. Let's be very, very clear. We didn't even fucking know you could do a hockey punch like this. Like, this wasn't on anybody's radar, right? Before, we thought that the impressive shit was like, you know, like, just the fact that, you know, Whitebeard and Roger, they weren't touching. That was a huge deal at one point in time, you know? That you could do no contact like this. That was a huge deal. Nobody, I don't care who it was, there's no fan arts, nobody thought that you could do hockey like this. Like, this is a totally different scale, right? This is just, like, it makes everything that Luffy and Kaido and such were doing during their fight look like a joke. Because this is unprecedented, right? Totally redefined. Like, this panel basically redefined what we thought hockey attacks could look like, right? Bajrangun is better. Bajrangun is a giant physical fist, right? This is no contact. This is from Garp's tiny little fist, right? From his tiny little fist, this is all hockey. Bajrangun is mostly, like, it's a huge attack, but that's because Luffy's fist is gigantic. This is Garp. This is all, like, nobody, let's be honest, we didn't know that you could do this, right? This was brand new. I don't want any revisionist history. Go back and read the reactions when this chapter came out. Nobody knew that this was physically possible with hockey. Nobody knew that you could have hockey extend to this degree, right? That's not a thing. Garp did a Shinra Tensei with just a punch. Yeah, Morj meant pure hockey. Yep. Alright, so this isn't a thing, right? So right off the bat, I'm just looking at it like, alright, Garp seems, I don't know, what's Aokiji got here, right? Alright, so he's got his ice. Alright, so Aokiji freezes him. This is obviously, it's a serious attack. It's the same attack he did against Whitebeard during the biggest war in, like, the biggest war in Marines history. This is, he's going serious, I think we can assume. This, I think we can assume it's vague, but let's do benefit of the doubt. Let's say that Garp's using Advanced Conqueror's Haki here. I don't know when we can or can't say that it's being used, but let's just say it's being used here. Let's be generous to Aokiji. So Garp does that. So no matter how you spin it, Garp wins this interaction, right? Correct? Garp wins this interaction. Jose Larios says Bajra Gun greater than Galaxy Impact. I would believe that Bajra Gun is a stronger attack than Galaxy Impact. I'm just saying that that's a combination of Luffy's Devil Fruit ability with Haki. I'm saying pure Haki. I think Garp's kind of got the most impressive move that we've seen so far, right? At least visually speaking, right? It redefines what we think that Haki can do. It's the most impressive display of Haki that we've seen. Anyway, I don't know why I was talking about that so much. It's really not relevant, I guess, to what happens between these two here, right? I think everybody would agree Garp wins this interaction because Aokiji's attack fails to do anything to Garp, but Garp is able to successfully get the better of Aokiji here, right? But, that's just the start of the fight. So let's move on. I think we're over here. Here? Yeah. Okay, so now Garp has to fight the entire Blackbeard pirates at the same time, which is fucking crazy. Like, this is a huge-ass handicap. This is an entire Yonko crew that he's fighting at the same time. Aokiji is pretty fucked up from one attack. So, he's able to get back up, but he's clearly fucked up from one attack. And then Oda actually has Garp handicapped before he has Garp fight Aokiji again. So he makes sure to handicap Garp. So this is a pretty significant handicap. He gets literally stabbed through the stomach by a Yonko first mate. And he has no defenses up or anything like that because he didn't know the attack was coming. Then let's call this moment a tie. Right, this is a tie. So Garp won their first interaction, then they tie. This is some Haki shit going on. And then, yeah, Garp won their first interaction, then they tied. Then what happens here? Then they're both standing up. Oda's making it clear that Garp is very injured right now. Where are you going with those wounds? Like, Garp has clearly been suffering a lot more at this point. He's been stabbed. Then Garp speed blitzes Aokiji. I don't really know how you can say Aokiji's holding back, because this is, like, it's a blitz. Like, he's clearly surprised, right? He's surprised. Garp is too fast for him. I don't think you can really say that he's, like, holding back is when you throw an attack. Like, you throw a punch that's not the strongest punch you can throw. But this is literally just, it's not like Aokiji's not trying to hurt Garp here. It's literally too fast, right? You can't really interpret this a different way. It's just, he's just surprised because Garp's too fast for him, right? Yeah, even if you think that Aokiji's holding back, you can't really spin this as anything else other than, at the very least, we know that Garp is faster than Aokiji, because you can't really hold back. Like, Aokiji's still trying to take out Garp, as we see by the end of the chapter, right? And yeah, then Garp loses to the entire Blackbeard Pirates crew, but Garp is also very handicapped by this point in time. And it's a huge team effort, and it's an entire Yonko crew. So, I mean, like, to me, long recap, but I just don't see what the argument for Aokiji over Garp is at this point, because, this fight started, Garp was winning, I mean, their initial interaction, then Garp gets handicapped, then they do 2 punches, which is a tie, and then after that, Garp is shown to be too fast for Aokiji to react to, and then after that, Garp loses to a huge team effort. So what's the like, yeah, McDude says injured old Garp is too fast. Yeah, that's basically it. I don't know. I just don't see the argument. Jose Lari says Aokiji could probably just freeze that entire island, but doesn't because of his Blackbeard crew. But even if he froze the entire island, Garp has already been shown to be able to break out of his ice. So what's the difference? And also, we don't know if Aokiji can freeze the entire island because that's based on nothing. We know that admirals can freeze and, like, reshape the scale of an entire island if they fight for 10 days straight. But to say that Aokiji could just freeze the entire island is based on nothing. And 2, it's not relevant because we already saw Aokiji try to freeze Garp and nothing happened. So what's it based off of? So I got Garp over Aokiji. And I'm not trying to be biased because if you guys go back and look at my top 30 list, I had Garp below Aokiji, I believe, before this fight happened. Because I was like, I just don't think Garp can take out, Akainu or Aokiji in their prime. But I swear I read with an open mind. When I read these chapters, I was like, there's just nothing in here that suggests to me that Aokiji was being portrayed as superior to Garp. Anyway, moving on. Ricky, thanks for the 2. Dragon fruit hint with his last line to Kuma. Yeah, dude, I think dragon's fruit is win. I think most people have thought that for some time. Nerve AMV Maker, thanks for the 5. It's also been established that advanced Conquerors Haki users suffer from amnesia and regularly forget how to use this ability. That is true. If I take that into account, that advanced Conquerors Haki users aren't able to remember that they can use the ability, that changes things drastically. Crow Stray God, thanks for the 10. Congrats on 200k Morj. I'll be surprised if Oda kills off Kuma given his reputation with deaths. I think that it's changing now, man. Because of how tragic his story is, the opposite might happen and he'll get a happy ending with Bonnie. I hope that doesn't happen. Like, that's a weird way to say it, but like, I feel like a lot of power of the story of Kuma is the escalating sense of tragedy. Sean Baker says, Aokiji froze the oceans in Long Ring Longland. Yeah, but it's easier to do that to water than to an island. We've already seen this. Aokiji has displayed much more ability to freeze water than he has it with anything on land. It's kind of like we've seen Oven boil the entire ocean, but that doesn't mean that Oven can melt all of can melt an island or something. Guru Dream says, you think it narratively makes sense for old Garp to be stronger than Aokiji? I think Oda was making Garp look the best and then holding back for Aokiji. See, that's the thing. Like, that's where I don't like a lot of people's power scaling, because it's kind of just people going in with a preconceived idea of, like, no, this just should be the way, and then you just make an assumption that's based on nothing. It's just like, what was established in the story that would suggest that Aokiji was holding back, but Garp wasn't? Because I saw Garp with a fucking stake through his chest at the end of it. Like, what are you talking about exactly? You think Garp was trying to kill Aokiji? I don't think that was ever established either. You think Aokiji was definitely trying to kill Garp? I don't know if that was established either, but I don't think it's established that either one of them. Like, you need to actually base it on what's happening in the story, because my take was also that narratively, I assumed that, yeah, probably old Garp shouldn't be able to beat Akainu or Aokiji right now, because they're in their primes. But I think it turns out that we all underestimated the level that Oda is placing these older legends, Roger, Whitebeard, and Garp at, where it's like, yeah, we're supposed to view this as, that's basically, it's basically like Aokiji fighting 80-year-old Luffy, you know what I mean? Or 80-year-old Roger, basically. Or 80-year-old Whitebeard, I suppose. And yeah, I think it would make sense that, you know, if Oda's saying that, yeah, they are still a bit too much for Aokiji to handle one-on-one, then that's just the way the narrative is. So it narratively makes sense for that to be the case, because that's what was shown in the narrative. Moving on. Yeah, I don't know if he'll have a happy ending with Bonnie, with Bonnie, just because I feel like there's more power to Kuma's story with the tragedy. But I like the idea that he's able to do something at the end to help save Bonnie, because that makes it a powerful sort of ending. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. The jailbreak was more Ivankov's idea with Luffy's help, and the world government is just or more culpable by choosing to save Face over catching the escapees. It's true that Luffy's plan wasn't to release everybody. That's true. But, and like, that's just something that happened as a consequence of what Luffy was doing. But Luffy also makes clear in his conversations with Hannibal that he doesn't ultimately care. And on top of that, Luffy's basically enabling everything that's happening. And on top of that, stuff like releasing Crocodile, you know, that's something that Luffy knows is really, 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 really fucking wrong. And he knows that Crocodile nearly caused the death of millions of people in Alabasta. But in that moment, Luffy's like, all right, if we're weighing saving my brother or potentially something like that happening again to Alabasta, we know he goes with his brother every time. Mark Zachnown, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 14 months. Love the dragon video. 20 minutes feels like a sweet spot where your analysis can breathe. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Congrats on 200k. Listened last week, but been a fan since 2019. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I know I've been seeing you around for in chats, etc. for a long time. So definitely appreciate that. Peak Fiction, thanks for the 5. Do you feel like Dragon's recent comment about leaving fate to the blow of the wind is in any way a hint to his powers? Wind Logia, Wind God Zone? I would love to just get... I do think that. I think that we've been on board... Most people have been on board with the idea of wind-related abilities for Dragon for some time. I'm looking for just a classic Wind Zone at this... Or sorry, Wind Logia at this point, because I wouldn't be surprised if Dragon has a Zone, just because Oda seems to be, at this stage in the story, erring towards really powerful Zoan fruits for his strongest characters instead of Logias, as was once the case. You know, Imu, the Gorosei, Luffy, Kaido. I wouldn't be surprised if Dragon fits that bill as well. But then I'm like, well then who has the Wind Logia? Shouldn't we get a Wind Logia at some point in this story? I feel like a Wind Logia would be cool. It's like Wind Logia, it's the simple answer, I guess. But I'm just like, why would Oda not just go with the Wind Logia unless he wants to really like shoehorn in some other Zoan transformation for Dragon that has the same abilities as Wind? Tom, thanks for the 10. Just thought this. What if Figarland captured Ginny trying to have a son to replace Shanks? What the fuck? Figarland captured Ginny. Trying to have a... Oh, I see what you're saying. Ginny has a daughter and gets sick, so they throw her out. Bonnie is Shanks' sister, and that certain pirate. That's interesting, because Shanks does talk about a certain pirate who we still don't know of, which is crazy. I mean, it could be Luffy, could be Blackbeard, could be anyone. Could be Bonnie. I'm still confused as to why Shanks was left behind in the first place. And, I don't know if he would why capture Ginny specifically to try have a kid to replace Shanks? Couldn't he, aren't there lots of, or you're saying it's just a coincidence? Yeah, I could see that. Mark Hogan, thanks for the 5. Chapter was very impressive for tying things together. The Pacifista name. Wait, I have a quick I'm confused. So are Celestial Dragon kids that are born, are they only Celestial Dragon kids if they're from 2 Celestial Dragons? That makes sense, right? Because Ginny would obviously not be considered a true Celestial Dragon, right? Right? Ginny wouldn't be a true Celestial Dragon, I would assume. And so a Celestial Dragon baby would likely just have to be 2 Celestial Dragons, right? 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 Am I crazy? They don't treat Ginny like Celestial Dragon. So Mark Hogan says, chapter was very impressive for tying things together. The Pacifista name, Queen Connie, the Tyrant moniker, etc. Oda tied up a lot of threads. Yes, I definitely, this chapter definitely felt like, okay, everything, we're filling in all the gaps. And one little thing that I liked is, if you guys saw that video that I put out a little while ago, the hidden genius of how Kuma chose the Straw Hats Islands, and how it was based on his past experiences, I really like that this chapter did show him actually going to all of the places that ultimately became the Straw Hats Islands. I feel like I wish that this chapter had come out before I did that video, but it's just cool to see that, yeah, Kuma really just, it's his whole life that he was putting on the line there, and every experience that he had, everything that he knew of the world, he was figuring out the ideal placement for each one of these characters that could one day save the world and do what he could not. I thought that's really cool. Even just him showing up, visiting Mihawk's Island, that's crazy. What's funny is that he must have gone to Mihawk. People were talking about this in the comments of that video. He must have gone to Mihawk's Island at some point and known about it because he sent Perona there first. So it couldn't have been his first experience with sending someone to... he must have known something about that island in some way before sending Perona and Zoro, which is kind of cool. Stanley Barton, thanks for the 5. How can Akainu be top 5 if he's barely above Aokiji in strength and he doesn't have Conqueror's Hat? Oh, we covered this. Bruna Cabral, thanks for the 10. If there's one thing I've learned from several pop culture fandoms, including Naruto, One Piece, Harry Potter, MCU, etc., fans will justify any evil action / idea so long as they like the characters. Yeah, and here's the crazy thing. You want to know what's crazy? This doesn't apply to just pop culture, fictional fandoms. It's the same thing for the real world. Real life people, real life celebrities, public figures, etc. Same with pretty much anything. It's not limited to just fiction. Celebrities, organizations, what have you, companies, doesn't matter. They'll like everyone has different leashes, and what they will or won't justify. You know what the perfect thing is, and this is totally tangential. The thing that the biggest place that you can see human bias, the single biggest place that you can see human bias, and just how attachment to certain previous attachments to certain groups or people, etc., skews just how you view right and wrong completely. The single biggest place that you'll see it: sports teams. With sports teams, it's fucking amazing because with sports teams, everybody gets the same exact news, right? You have something like X athlete of X team does something, right? Let's say something somewhat bad, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Let's say Draymond Green. Even Warriors fans have mostly been sick of Draymond Green's shit lately, but like, let's say some earlier Draymond Green instance. One incident can happen, and if you go to the general NBA sphere or something like that, you will see everybody shitting on this player, talking about how bad this player is, what they did, etc., etc. But if you go to that team's space, be it their subreddit, follow their Twitter accounts or whatever, you will see just people doing mental gymnastics, going through loopholes, like in their like running circles in their minds, like doing backflips, basically trying to explain like why it's not so bad, how people are overreacting, etc. And it's not just any individual fan base; it applies to every fan base. You see it with you see it with the Suns, like during last year's playoffs. You see it with the Grizzlies. You see it with any fan base. Everybody gets the same exact news. You see exactly the same thing, what this person did. But if you already like that person, then you just view it in a drastically different light, and you just change the narrative so much. You just jump through so many hoops, so many circles to try and explain why it's not so bad and why people are overreacting. And it's just like, no, it's not like this fan base is shitty or that fan base is shitty or this fan base is shitty. It's just like, this is just how people work. This is how every fucking fan base is. As soon as you're a fan of something, your whole moral perception of how that person, individual, organization is just skewed forever. And you will interpret the same incident that everybody else is seeing wildly differently. It is crazy to see. I didn't realize like you can see it in so many other things with countries and like celebrities, pop culture, fiction, etc. But with sports, it's just more eye-opening to me because it's just, that's the one thing where it's like a real person or real individuals doing things, but just if you choose to view it in a different light than everybody else because you have this preconceived bias, you will just interpret morally what they did in a totally different light than what other people did. You get what I'm saying? I've only really seen that because like other things like countries and stuff like that, right? Not to talk about anything happening in the real world. With stuff like that, you might be biased based on where you live or where like the culture, the people that you associate with, what political party, etc. But sports are just sports. They're universal, right? I can be a Lakers fan sitting here in, let's pretend I'm in Alaska or something like that, right? Like, it doesn't matter if like it's universal. There's no outside sort of cultural like I'm not tied to a nation or a city or something like that necessarily. You're just people, right, who happen to like this particular team or this particular player. You see the same thing with like tennis. Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, etc. It's insane how people interpret certain things Djokovic does versus shitty things that Federer and Nadal have done in the past. Djokovic is obviously far from perfect, but so are Federer and Nadal. But people will like praise the fuck out of them because they like them and shit on Djokovic for anything because they don't like him. I think sports are the biggest example I've seen of this. Anyway, moving on. Sorry for the tangent. Caleb Brown, thanks for the 2. Dragon might have the best one-liner since Kaido. I don't think Dragon's had any great one-liners or like dialogue in general that I can recall. I liked what he said post Enies Lobby. That was the most interesting to me. Where he steps out, we get the first full reveal of him, and he's talking about like the importance of always like Luffy, you're a pirate, anywhere you go, always question the world. I think that's a more That's something that Luffy already intuitively does, but Dragon's putting a more, mildly philosophical slant to it. And he's spelling out more so a theme of the series that we're supposed to understand and take as important from here on out. We're going to see it through Luffy, but this is basically slapping a sticker on it and like, this is the idea. This is what One Piece is trying to communicate, and just keep that in mind for every island that we go to from here on out. So I like that from Dragon. That was before Dragon became this just perpetually sweating dude. Mob, thanks for the 5. Didn't get to watch 200k stream live, but congrats, dude. Thank you very much. Shout out to one of my favorite YouTubers and happiest Indian. For those of you who don't know, go watch the 200k stream. You can pick up on the inside joke from there. D says it was Garp versus Blackbeard's Grand Fleet, not just Pirate Crew. Yeah, it was everybody. It was Garp that's the thing, I really don't get the Garp being below Aokiji idea, because it's like, it wasn't just Garp versus Aokiji. It's literally just like Garp versus an entire Yonko crew that happens to have Aokiji on it, and people are like, yeah, Aokiji's stronger. It's like, it doesn't really make sense to me. Because it's like, at that point, nothing makes sense, right? It's just like, okay, well, what if, I don't know, Shanks had to fight, like, Blackbeard and the entire Blackbeard pirates, and then Shanks lost. Are we going to be like, okay, well, Blackbeard's stronger than Shanks then? You know, like, I don't get it. I mean, this is what everybody says for, like, Kaido versus Luffy. They're like, no, Kaido's still stronger than Luffy, because, like, Kaido had to fight Luffy and all these other characters, and that's why Kaido lost. So it's like, okay, so if you hold that logic for Kaido, why wouldn't you hold that for Garp? I don't really get it. Again, it's one of those where I feel like people just decided that Aokiji should be above Garp beforehand, and then they stuck with that, even though it doesn't really make any sense to me now. I mean, we reread the fight together. I don't think there was any moment where it looked like Aokiji was better than Garp. Manifest Joe, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 13 months, man. Missed the 200k sub stream live, so congrats again, Morj. Thanks for all the awesome analysis over the years. Thank you very much. Bring back Film Morj. That one's too hard to bring back. Have you ever read Invincible? I've heard really good things about the actual Invincible comic. Think you'd enjoy it and would love your take. I'm gonna be honest, man. I'm just gonna keep watching the show. When does the show come out? Is it out already? There's no way. I'd see shit about it, right? Invincible Season 2. Wait, it's already out? Are you kidding? What? Oh, it's coming out weekly. Why have I not, like, reading or hearing anything about this? Am I, like, wait, what the fuck? Invincible Season 2 is already out? It's just been out? Why am I seeing zero buzz about this whatsoever? The first season was such a huge deal. Jose Lario says the Marines don't count. You're right. So, a Marine squad consisting of 0 vice admirals is the same amount of backup as Aokiji had from an entire fucking Yonko crew. Like, listen to what you're saying. You're saying that Kobe, Helmeppo, and 3 random, like, captains that we've never heard of is the same as, like, having backup from basically, like, all the strongest criminals in history that were locked up in Impel Down. What the fuck are you talking about? Dead on arrival? Dimion Wright says Aokiji did the same thing with Blackbeard right there. Yeah, I mean, I have Aokiji. I think unless Blackbeard has a third fruit that he's hiding, I think Aokiji could take Blackbeard right now. Like, I'm consistent with the reasoning I use. Somebody tell me about Invincible Season 2. Why is it out and so bad apparently that nobody cares? Is Season 2 good? Jolly D. Joseph says, because season 1, episode 1 had a better plot twist. Sure, but I thought people would still be talking about it. Like, the season, like, it's back. You know, it's a huge deal. Sin says, who made it harder on Garp? Lol. Yeah, Garp also had to go out of his way to protect them. Let's keep that in mind. Yusuf says, you have to say Garp greater than Akainu then? Yeah, I mean, if we're going off of what we knew of Akainu's strength before, and if we assume that Akainu has not gotten stronger, then I would have Garp above Akainu. I am giving Akainu the benefit of the doubt in that narrative role, that same as I'm giving Blackbeard the benefit of the doubt, that down the line, Blackbeard will be stronger than what we've seen of him so far, right? So I think Akainu, maybe he's gotten a power-up or will eventually get a power-up. I think by the end of the story, Akainu would be stronger than Garp is right now. But if we're just going off of the same Akainu that we saw at Marineford, I've got Garp above him. It's good. It's a setup season for the rest of the series. Alright, that's disappointing. I understand setup seasons are important and stuff like that, but we've been waiting on Invincible for a while now, you know, so I thought that they'd have more of a bag. Moving on. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Caribou gets mistaken for a revolutionary modeled after Che Guevara, who rode the yacht Granma, dragon ship. That man will turn out to be Dragon. You think Caribou is a revolutionary? Yo, that'd be crazy. If Caribou's a revolutionary, that'd be crazy. But Caribou was such a shitty person. Was he killing like a lot of people initially? Kurokami Najima says Blackbeard destroyed Marco. Aokiji couldn't do that. Even if Aokiji is stronger, he can't destroy Marco? What do you mean? We don't know what the Blackbeard-Marco fight was like at all. Blackbeard won, and the Whitebeard pirates were defeated. That's literally all we know. The Whitebeard pirates were overwhelmingly defeated. But that's because, you know, they're fighting a Yonko crew. Like, it's 2 Yonko crews fighting, except one of the Yonko crews doesn't have a captain. But literally all we know is that Blackbeard defeated Marco. And Aokiji would also defeat Marco. Flip side, Blackbeard went, like, he had decent difficulty trying to defeat Law. You think Aokiji, or, like, keep in mind, Aokiji is the same strength as Akainu. You think Akainu is having anywhere near that? Like, if Akainu ran into Law would be, like, a puddle of molten flesh on the ground within 3 panels. It would be over. I think, Blackbeard showing against Aokiji, or Blackbeard showing against Law, basically, it's fairly concrete that Blackbeard would probably lose to Aokiji. Because if he's, like, slipping up and getting, like, some damage from Law, then what the fuck is he going to do against Aokiji? TY says Aokiji no diff Jozu. Yeah, keep that in mind too. Caribou tried to sell mermaids as slaves, says Yusuf. Yeah, wasn't Caribou like a really shitty dude before he became like more comic relief and like slightly nicer? Or slightly helpful? Hans Ding, thanks for the 2. Nah, the best example is K-pop fans. No, I think what I'm trying to say with sports is basically like everyone's in the same sphere with sport. Like K-pop fans, it's just like we have no, like, average person knows nothing about K-pop. What's going on in the K-pop world? We just hear someone blind, and then we see, you know, people like these K-pop fans apparently defending him. I don't really know what you're referencing here with K-pop fans, but that's what I'm saying. Like with celebrities in general, I might not know anything about celebrity, like a certain celebrity. The celebrity has a fan base, and then that fan base might vehemently defend them when they do something wrong, right? Sports is different because we're all watching the same players, right? We're all in the same sphere. We're all watching LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, etc. We're all aware of all of the players. We're all seeing all of them, right? We're all watching the same games, etc. You're all watching exactly the same thing. You're watching exactly the same people, but just based on who you are, like whose jersey you happen to wear, your entire view of how you interpret one person's actions versus another, who you attribute malice, wrongdoing to, It's so wildly warped. Um, it's similar to fiction because you could say One Piece, we're all reading the same thing, but we have different opinions based on characters. But these are fictional characters. So to me, sports is basically the thing where it's like these are real people. We're all observing the same real people. It's like a weird ass social experiment. We all see the same shit happening on the floor. We're all looking at the same stream, the same games. We're all aware of the same stuff, right? But just the jersey you happen to wear just totally warps how you interpret everything that's happening. It's crazy. And you see the same thing every time. It's like if you went to the Sun subreddit last year during the playoff stuff, when their owner was doing certain things, you'd see the Sun subreddit being like, oh, everybody on like our NBA, they're just a bunch of dumb 12-year-olds and stuff like that, yada yada yada. You see the same shit if you go to any subreddit after their team has done, like a player on their team has done something wrong, or someone as part of their organization has done something wrong. They'll all just be bitching about how, oh, our NBA and like NBA Twitter and all those guys, they're just dumb. They don't know what they're talking about. They're a bunch of 12-year-olds. Lol, lol, lol. They're all got their heads up their asses. This is the only sane place in the world. This little subreddit of our team. It's just like, have you ever considered that if everybody else thinks you guys are in the wrong, that maybe you're in the wrong? Because it's the same shit. It's like copy pasted. You can see the same shit anytime. If you're like a Kings fan and one of your teammates, like one of your players does something bad, Kings subreddit will be defending the shit out of it while everybody else rationally talks about how stupid it is. Same for Warriors, same for Lakers, same for Suns, same for everything. It's just like, as soon the whole world could be saying something, but this little group is just like, no, they're all fucking dumbass 12-year-olds who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, etc. We're the only logical ones. It's like, wow, crazy how all the smartest people in the world decided to become Suns fans. Yusuf, thanks for the 2. Which series do you like more, Jujutsu Kaisen or Chainsaw Man? For me, it used to be Chainsaw Man easy. It's just that I don't know if Chainsaw Man's... I feel like Chainsaw Man... I kind of need to let part 2 play out, because I just feel like it's not as sharp or delivering on in the way that I used to really, really value it, or used to really, really... the things that I thought it was really, really good at, I feel like it's not quite delivering on that for me quite as much anymore, which is a shame, because I felt like when part 2 initially started, I thought that it was even better than part 1, and then just some things changed around a certain arc, and then I just felt like the series became a little sloppier, hazier in its ideas, hazier in how it's putting those ideas together, a bit more rushed in certain places, but then also weirdly slower in certain places. So Chainsaw Man, like, for me, there's a huge gap between Chainsaw Man versus Jujutsu Kaisen, or at least there was, because Jujutsu Kaisen I view as basically a fairly standard shonen, like an extremely standard shonen with, like, a little bit darker than the average shonen, and maybe cares a little bit more about its power system than the average shonen, but at the same time not as good at certain dramatic or emotional stuff as like a lot of other shonen. So I just view Chainsaw Man as solid, like a solid series, nothing crazy, nothing particularly unique or innovative, but good fun. And Chainsaw Man was, like, at least part 1 of the manga was a wildly innovative shonen manga that was extremely different from any other series running in Shonen Jump at the time. Like, wildly different. Like, everything from the way it approached the plot, the characters, how it treats the characters, the themes that it writes about, the style, extremely, like, you never see such a minimalist style in shonen manga in terms of scene direction, art, paneling, pacing. What it does with the panels is so creative at certain spots. Like, Chainsaw Man felt much more, much more artistically innovative in many ways, both in terms of the writing and the actual visually what you're seeing, right? Don't know if that still holds true, because at the end of the day, it's still got to be good in terms of how it's piecing together its plot, where it's going with the characters, the themes, ideas, etc. And I feel like part 2 has kind of lost it a bit in that. So I don't know. No, I mean like the recent fight without spoiling anything. Did I say Chainsaw Man twice? Chainsaw Man, I'll say this. I used to think, for Jujutsu Kaisen fans, right? I used to hold Chainsaw Man, like, not even close. I think that there's a significant gap between Chainsaw Man versus Jujutsu Kaisen because, again, Chainsaw Man, there was nothing like it that had come before, at least that I had read, period, in a shonen series. Nothing close to it, right? Felt very, 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 very different, innovative. It kind of felt like just a totally different direction that you can take writing a manga. Writing a manga, how you depict a manga, etc. Right? And if it fits that it ultimately stopped being a shonen series, they moved it to Shonen Plus or something, like some older version of shonen, because it just doesn't feel like a standard shonen series in the first place. Just so different. It's like it doesn't even care about any of the standard themes or tropes that most every shonen tends to fall back on, right? It's closer to a seinen than anything, right? Kind of like Hunter x Hunter in that sense. So I think it was just like there's no point even comparing the two because one is basically a solid shonen and then the other is like trying to be something totally different. So I gave Chainsaw Man a lot more points for that. Over time though, right, for Jujutsu Kaisen fans, I do feel like Chainsaw Man just being you still need to be structuring together something that works right on every level of storytelling, right? Like what are you doing with the characters? What are you doing with the plot? How are you pacing things out? What's the direction that you're going? Are the themes all coming together well? I feel like it's starting to lose that. So it doesn't help that Chainsaw Man Part 2, I feel like it's at the shakiest point where I'm starting to kind of lose my like I put Chainsaw Man on a certain like pedestal in terms of what the author is doing. But it's kind of started like I'm kind of starting to be like, does he know what he's doing? Versus Jujutsu Kaisen, which did just come off basically the most hype manga event of that I can remember in recent memory, right? Like something that basically like had readers from not just that series but all series kind of tuned in and captivated and, you know, at the edge of our seats. I think I'm exaggerating for myself and maybe non-one Jujutsu Kaisen fans, but you know what I mean? Like it created a manga event, right? So like a sort of event that will never be forgotten. And it did something that I think really hasn't been done by a manga like that in recent memory that I can recall, you know? So you're also comparing Chainsaw Man, I guess, at the point where I would say it's maybe at its worst versus Jujutsu Kaisen where it's maybe at its most exciting. And in that regard, if you ask me right now, I'm like, it's hard to compare the two. Because if Chainsaw Man's just going downhill, then I no longer care that it was once what it was. You know what I mean? People are like, I'm scared you're gonna spoil. Please just talk One Piece. All right. I'll leave it. I'll leave it. I'll leave it. I'll say this about Fujimoto. For people who have never tried Chainsaw Man, right? I suggest. What was it? Goodbye, Eri? I suggest reading Goodbye, Eri. Yeah. Yeah. People who don't understand what I mean by Fujimoto Chainsaw Man being so different, yada, 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 you can read a one-shot. Just one chapter. It's a one-shot called Goodbye, Eri that he released. If you read that, then I think you immediately understand how, like, Chainsaw Man, what the authors do. It's like his vision is on a totally different planet than what most manga writers are thinking about. The dude is off the off the fucking rails. Very, like, just a wildly creative and ultimately wildly creative, extremely jarring one shot where it feels like the author has extreme command over how he's able to manipulate the reader, what he's able to make the reader feel, and ultimately even not giving a shit about what he makes the reader feel at the end of the day. I've never read anything like Goodbye Eri in like a manga one shot before, so it's just totally different style and approach and attitude towards storytelling than you'll see in, you know, pretty much any standard shonen manga or seinen manga that's, you know, a traditional fantasy action type thing. Anuj Agarwal, thanks for the 5. Kuma said, I'd make a deal with the devil. And the scene pans to Saturn. Yep, yeah. I mean, Saturn's gonna force Kuma to do the cyborg stuff. Also, as a revolutionary, Kuma not pushing back more and helping the Marines initially is questionable. Yeah. Yeah, I guess, you know what, with Kuma, maybe, I can't think of a good excuse for him right now. Maybe it's just that, like, Vegapunk sold him well on, like, Vegapunk seems like a good guy, so Vegapunk sold him well on the idea that, like, you know, this will be like a pacifistic project. I don't know. It is naive, but at the end of the day, Kuma in that moment was just like he really felt like he had to save Ginny, right? So I'm not excusing it. It's just naive and stupid. Ismail. Thanks for the 10. Is it just me, or does Dragon have the last road poneglyph? Black ship that creates whirlpools, and a reason why Dragon can't be hasty to fight in the forefront. Let me take a look real quick. Let's take a look. I can't share the screen because that's risky, but let me take a look. Does he create whirlpools? I wouldn't be surprised if Dragon creates whirlpools. Let's see his ship. It is a black ship. Why does Dragon have a road poneglyph? This was brought up earlier. I remember way back about Dragon potentially being the man marked by flames. I kind of dismissed it at the time, not because it was a bad idea, but because I just felt like it's not an interesting idea. I felt like it was Oda being obscure for no reason, because Dragon's just like, it's not some vague, really secretive character like, you know, if it turned out to be Wang Ji or something like that. It's literally just, it's just Dragon. We see that dude all the fucking time. Like, you know, it'd be like if kids talking about like, oh, I need the final road poneglyph, but it's held by the man with like man with golden eyes or something like that. I don't know. And then it's like a huge mystery about the man with the golden eyes, and then it just turns out to be, I don't know, Mihawk or something like that, you know? Like, it's just, like, you don't need to add a mystery when the answer is just something very, it's not really not really a mind-blowing answer, I think. It doesn't have to be mind-blowing, but it's just, like, being obscure just for the sake of being obscure when we're very familiar with certain characters at a certain point is just not that interesting to me. It's like, why even call him the man marked by flames? It's fucking Dragon, like the world's most famous criminal. Why would he call him the man marked by flames? The man marked by flames. Oh, you mean fucking, like, it'd be like talking about Gold Roger or some shit, like, in some vague, mysterious way. But I could see that being the answer. Oda has been vaguely mysterious at before plenty of times in the story just to generate more mystery. Obviously, Oda's generally very, very, very good at creating mysteries, right? Phenomenal at creating long-running mystery threads. There are just a few times where he forces it a bit. I think that the biggest example I can ever think of Oda forcing a little bit of obscure mystery, like not even obscure, this isn't the same thing. This is not the same thing, but it's just made me remember something, which is Zoa's coming out, and usually Oda likes to end every chapter with some sort of a cliffhanger. If it's not a closure scene, then he likes to end it with a cliffhanger. Zoa's coming out, and we're partway through Zoa, and we're just at it, like, early in Zoa, and there's no way to write a good cliffhanger, so Oda has Wanda, like the Minks have just met the Straw Hats, they don't know what's happened to the other half of the crew, so Wanda tells the crew, come with me, like in a very serious tone. She's like, come with me, and I'll show you the corpse of your friends. And it's like, oh no, did they die? And it turns out she's just talking about Brooke, which is, to me, so forced, because it's just like, they're asking where are our friends, and she's like, come with me and I'll show you the corpse of your friends. It's like, why wouldn't you just say, come with me and I'll show you your friends? You know, like, why would you specifically single out just Brooke and then phrase it in a way that it's like, I'll show you the corpse of your friend? You know, it's like, it's so bizarre. It's so forced. Unless Wanda's trying to be really scary, which she's not. She's just telling them, I'll show you your friends. But Oda's like, how do I make it scary? Okay, I'll make it implied that they died. How do I make it implied that they died? Okay, I'll have her only reference Brooke for some reason because Brooke's a skeleton. What the fuck? Dick so small I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Caribou's not a revolutionary. Just know there's a man who wants the just knows there's a man who wants the ancient weapons and money. Oh, I see what you're saying. The Che Guevara cover story is a clue that it'll turn out to be Dragon. Okay, I could see that. Like, it's not like he's a revolutionary. He's not a good guy, but he's just, he knows the Dragon would pay. That's an interesting point. Oh, people are saying it's a joke? I don't think that was an attempt at a joke at that time. I mean, like, it was played off, but at the same time, like, the like, doing it as a cliffhanger when you know what the answer is, it's a very forced joke, if that makes sense. Seth Meth asked Morj, you can only save one thing, the rest would be worse. One Piece anime, SFX, pacing, or animation? I would save the pacing, obviously, because the reality is that the animation was, you know, you can go back to pre-time skip level animation. I would not mind. Like, I don't need all the crazy Sakuga stuff. I would not mind. I loved One Piece anime back when it was watchable pacing. No, I know it's a joke. I know it's a joke, but it's a really forced way to do a joke, you know? Like, because the setup is very inorganic. Why would Wanda only reference one of the friends and specifically be referencing the corpse one, you know? Because they're like, we're our friends. She's like, I'll take you to see the corpse of your friends, right? She's not trying to be scary to them. She's already accepted that they're good people, right? Why would she only reference Brooke? It's like a very forced way to do a cliffhanger, and that's why the joke feels flat, because you're just forcing a cliffhanger that feels very inorganic to me. Manifest Joe, thanks for the 5. Man marked by flames might be a role Dragon took up, similar to the Dread Pirate Roberts from Princess Bride. Oh, I could see what you're saying. Yeah, that's an interesting possibility. It's basically the same as Wanda saying, like, oh, your friends are dead. And it's like, our friends are dead? And then she points to Brooke, and she's like, see, he's dead. It's like, that's a joke, but it's like, why would the character say that? Why would the character say that in general? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just an inorganic thing to say unless the character is actively trying to make a joke, which she wasn't, or she's actually actively trying to scare the group, which she wasn't. So it's more so the author just forcing a joke where it doesn't really make sense for the characters to set it up like that. Zai says it would be a good joke in the middle of the chapter. I mean, it would never be a good joke, but it would just be a thing. Less obtrusive. Mark Hogan says Morj, it probably is a language thing because in Japan there's often no distinction between singular or plural, so friends could be one friend. Yeah, but then why is she saying just Brooke? Like, why would she be saying, even if she's saying, I'm going to take you to see the corpse of your friend, why would she be saying Brooke? Like, why would it just be Brooke? There's, like, their entire crew is there. It's just really random and forced. Like, they're like, we want to see our friends. She's like, I will go show you the corpse of your friend. What? Like, you would just never say that to another group of people. If they're asking to see their friends, you'd be like, okay, I'll show you your friends. Why would you single out just one person in particular who's also not the most prominent person in the group? Ender Ainami gets it. Yeah, that's artificially forced dialogue for the sake of a cliffhanger. Dinesh Tawari says, what's your top 5 favorite anime? I'm going to exclude anime that I also experience as a manga, because it's just hard to compare. It's like Hunter x Hunter I read first. I usually, this question comes up a lot. Hunter x Hunter I read first and then I watched. But if I watched it first, then I'd probably consider it one of my, like, if I watched Hunter x Hunter first and never read it, then maybe I'd be like, Hunter x Hunter's my favorite anime. But it feels weird because I've experienced it both ways. I don't know. It's hard to explain why it's weird. It just is. That's why I exclude One Piece as well, because I've read so much of it as a manga. So if I'm saying things that I've experienced mainly as an anime and just as an anime, I usually say Steins Gate is my favorite. And then beyond that, I really like... The problem is a lot of them I've experienced... Okay, what have I not also experienced as a manga? Okay, if we're narrowing down, it's mostly basic stuff. Steins Gate is probably my favorite. Cowboy Bebop. No, that's... Do I need to pull up my list? My anime list? Might have to. Full Metal. JoJo's I've only read parts 6, 7, and 8. So I guess I could count that. Yeah, we could say that. Let me see. No, I don't need to look up. No, I kind of do. 5 that I haven't experienced outside. I could say Death Note to be basic, because I really enjoyed that when I was first watching it. But I don't think it ended well. I don't know. Just anime is tricky, because for me, most every series that I've read that I've watched as an anime, I've also read as a manga. So then it just becomes hard for me to compare, because it's easier for me to rank manga in my head, if that makes sense. You know? Yeah, I've seen Code Geass, but I didn't watch the second season of Code Geass. Partly because, I guess it is a Code Geass spoiler, but I don't think it's a huge... No, it's a spoiler. I just feel like Code Geass, the way the first season ended... I understand everybody says the second season's really good, but the way the first season ended, it felt like it made a lot of what happened in the first season... Just felt like a lot of progress was lost, and I guess that's partly the point, but it just felt like such a huge reset to me that I just didn't feel like watching the next season. Myriad, thanks for the 5. Have you seen Gurren Lagann? Happy Thanksgiving too. I've seen like the first episode of Gurren Lagann. I like Ping Pong the animation a lot. Yeah, I'd have to pull up like a My Anime list to be able to see. John6788 says, Morj, are you scared of bad endings? Yeah, usually a bad ending will negate my entire prior investment in the story. Tag says Legend of the Galactic Heroes. I really like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, but I'm not that far in it, and I had to take a break, and it's so... Now, I don't remember... the plot of the previous episodes that well. I only remember it vaguely, and I feel like I should know because a lot of the plots are particularly political, so I feel like I wish there was a way I could quickly recap what happened in the first, 15 episodes, 10 episodes, or something like that. Ender Anami says Ping Pong manga is better than the anime. I really like the animation style, so that's why I like Ping Pong a lot. In some cases, bad endings don't matter as much to me. So if it's a series like Hunter x Hunter, where it's in general, I felt like the overarching plot matters more now. But, where it closed in the anime, for example, there wasn't much of an overarching plot in the first place up till that point. So, series that are more arc to arc and less of a really building story, it's easier if it gets bad later on, because it usually doesn't affect my enjoyment of previous things. Like, for example, it doesn't matter what happens in the future with Hunter x Hunter. It's not going to impact my enjoyment of the Chimera Ant arc at all. Whereas with something like One Piece, it's weird because if One Piece's final saga happens to be really bad, it would retroactively affect my enjoyment of Marineford quite a bit, for example, because a lot of Marineford is built on the conflict of the world at large that's being established and brought together right there. And if you know that later on a lot of it's just not going to matter, like let's say down the line it's like Blackbeard ends up not mattering at all, Shanks gets off screen or something like that, Mihawk's not a big deal, like the world government conflict is resolved in like 30 chapters or something, like it would just make me not care as much when I'm reading Marineford, because I'd be like, okay, a lot of what this is setting up and the weight that it's attaching to things, okay, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. There's episode recaps of are there episode recaps of Legend of the Galactic Heroes? Adam CR, thanks to 10. Heard Bloodborne's your favorite game. Best boss fight. No, Bloodborne I have not played. I've not played Bloodborne. Bloodborne is the game I can't play because I don't have a PlayStation. But I heard some things like I heard some news about Bloodborne that it might be coming out on, like, a movie might be coming out. Bloodborne news. I swear I heard. Wait, Bloodborne No. I've seen some news about Bloodborne recently. Man, I swear I saw some random leak that there's a movie or something like that of Bloodborne being developed. Eyes96's Morj watch Prison School. No, I know that one is like some hentai thing. JP, thanks for being a member for 8 months. Game of Thrones ending, wiping out 6 years of hype. Yeah, exactly. Like, if everything just doesn't matter in the end, then I no longer care about, like, it's so wild to go back to Game of Thrones' earlier seasons and just think about the plot lines for them. The plot lines were so slow, meticulous, like, this little thing would make a huge difference over here, and it's like the threads get so dense and convoluted, and it feels like everything is coming together and leading to bigger things and such. And then down the line, it's just like a kid just running through with like a marker and like Xing off stuff, or like crossing off some huge thing, or circling some big thing, or drawing in something crazy. And it just makes you not care at all. Like, all of the political intricacies and plot intricacies from the early seasons, I can't go back and enjoy them again when I'm like, okay, well, down the line, I know that none of this shit matters. None of that shit matters. All that's really going to matter is, like, Jon Snow, Daenerys, some of the Stark kids, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I know some fans are making a remake for PC. This is when I don't know shit about computers, alright? So this is what's really funny. So I know fans are trying to remake some stuff for PC. And I was on, like, the Bloodborne for PC subreddit. Yes, that is a thing. And someone was posting something that they'd done on the PC where they were able to, like, after years of work, they were able to get Bloodborne to just start, like, load the opening menu interface or something like that. Or just, like, the audio or something. Like, just start, get to the opening, like, first screen or opening screen or something like that. Like, the start game screen or something. And they're like, yeah, that's as far as I've gone. And everyone was, like, really excited. It's like, holy shit, he was able to do it. Holy shit. And I'm like, why is this a big deal? Can someone explain this to me? Why is it a big deal just to be able to, like, open up the game? You can't play it. You're not even close. I'm like, isn't this... If this was, like, trying to copy a book, wouldn't this be, like, copying, like, the forward page or something like that? And not, like, the 800 other pages that actually matter? I was so confused. I didn't understand why it's a big deal to just be able to do that. Dunzale Burke says, what do you think about Inuyasha? No, so I've got a funny story about Inuyasha. I think I've told this story before about Inuyasha. Seriously, someone explained that PC situation to me, because I was mind blown. I was just like, oh, someone was able to start the game. I open it up, I'm like, this dude couldn't start the game, he couldn't do shit. And all the comments were like praising the dude. And I was like, I really don't understand anything about PC stuff or how games work at all, because I don't get why this is a big deal. It seems like a huge disappointment to me. Anyway, I think I've shared this story about Inuyasha before, but it's always funny to me, which is because looking back on it now in my life, having become such a, like, I watch anime, read manga, etc. What I was like once when I was a kid, when all this stuff was foreign to me. So it was the summer, I'm pretty sure the summer after 6th grade. one of my friends who, like, my family had moved, but he was my best friend in the previous place we were at. So his family invited me to go on a trip with them to their beach house and everything like that. So I was going along with them on their road trip to the beach house, and I hadn't seen him in a little bit, so I didn't really know, like, your interests change, hobbies change, etc. Right? So he was like, "Yeah, I brought stuff for us to watch basically on the way to the beach house." Right? We had one of those portable DVD players, which is what you had back in the day. So I was like, "Okay, cool. What are we gonna watch?" So he was very excitedly just like, "Yeah, I got some Inuyasha." And I was just like, I didn't say anything, but in my head I was just like, what? He said it so confidently and excitedly and like just like the most normal thing in the world. He's like, I got us some Inuyasha, and he's just plugging it in, putting it in, setting it up, and I'm just sitting there in the other seat, and I'm just like, what? Inuyasha? I know that that's like a thing, I guess, that exists. Like, maybe I saw it, I don't know, maybe it was on Cartoon Network or Toonami or something that I'd see. Like, I knew the name, and I think I vaguely understood that it was a thing. But I was just like, the fuck am I gonna have to watch for like the next 2 hours on this trip to the beach? What the fuck? I gotta watch Inuyasha? And I'm like, looking over, I'm like, what is he like Inuyasha? What the fuck happened? Why is he watching Inuyasha? And then he just sets up Inuyasha, and I'm just like, this weird dog kid. It's exactly what you think it is. Like, I didn't know the word weeb back then, but if I had known it, that was the mental concept that was in my head. I was like, why are we watching this really weird weeb thing, basically? Like, I didn't know the word weeb, but that was the concept. The feeling is the same, right? It's just like this ninja samurai dog kid with white hair, and he's got a sword, and then they go to this magical world. Like, I have no context, by the way. He did not give me any context. Like, I didn't know what the fuck the setup for any of this was. I just don't know anything about the characters. It's just some random shit. I was just like, all right, sure hope we don't have to watch that shit on the way back. It doesn't have enough, like, not enough on the DVD for that. So, yeah, for me, that Inuyasha, anytime Inuyasha is brought up, it's just really funny to me because it's just like, that's my flashback to the first actual weebish thing that I was made to watch ever. Because you could say, oh, Morj, you must have seen Dragon Ball. No, you know what? What am I talking about? Because I'd already seen One Piece. And stuff on. You know what it is? It's the disconnect, because sometimes you just don't recognize what is or isn't really like falling into the category of anime. You know what I mean? Because One Piece was just coming on Cartoon Network. I could tell that it was different, but for me it was just a show that was a cool pirate show that was different from all the other shows. I don't think I even realized that One Piece fell into the same category as Dragon Ball, because I'd also seen Dragon Ball on TV. And I think lots of people don't even realize that Dragon Ball falls in the same category as like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, you know? But Inuyasha, I could tell that this shit was clearly some Japanese weeb shit. You know what I mean? What's funny is One Piece, it really doesn't come across Japanesey in its first, like, for a long time, if you're watching it in English dub, because that's what I was watching 4Kids when it was coming on TV. It doesn't come across that way for a long time, because it's just like, it just seems, it's just a pirate show, and everything seems honestly kind of Western concepts, like there's no Japanese names, there's no shinobi, samurai, stuff like that. You know, everything seems piratey. It's just a pirate cartoon with a different animation style, if that makes sense, if you're just watching random One Piece dub. So that's maybe why I wasn't like turned off from One Piece initially. It's not like if you read like if you watch Naruto and they're fucking doing like 50 different hand signals and like stuff like that, and like you can just tell that something is off. Like, this is not produced by Cartoon Network. You can tell. You know what I mean? Like Naruto. Same with Bleach. There's this kid. He's wearing these Japanese robes and stuff like that. He travels to Japanese countries and does Japanese things, and you know, they wear sandals and shit. Like, One Piece just doesn't seem. It seems somewhat Western, actually. If you just catch it in the wild in dub as a kid, you don't know. But Inuyasha was another one of those where you could just definitely tell right off the bat. You could tell. Anyway. Sweet A, thanks for the 5. Let's celebrate their first super on a live stream. Thank you very much. I appreciate that being your first super. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, man. Thanks a lot. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. You're that guy, BTW. Okay, thanks. Been watching for a while and I loved the takes. Crazy how the anime is fine to take off. Can't agree with the anime part, but I agree with everything else. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, man. Virgil Hawkins, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 14 months, man, as well as moderating the chat for so long. Excited about the PS5 giveaway? All right, now I'm not happy. What are some times you've strongly related to a character's arc or personality? Plus, are there any fictional characters that people you know have said you're very similar to? Did you ask this question during a Pirate King tier podcast before? I feel like you did. This feels like a very similar question. Maybe if you didn't, I feel like you asked it. If you didn't, somebody else did. Times I've strongly related to character's arc or personality. I don't think I've ever strongly related to a single character's arc, to be honest. But there's times I've been very interested in certain character arcs, like characters that go from nothing to I think I like, for me, I think I like in external stories, I like stories where characters go from very little but are able to, through strategy or something like that, able to accomplish quite a bit. For whatever reason, these are often written as bad characters, like Michael Corleone or Walter White or something like that, and I understand that they're bad characters, but I would love to see stories like that where they are also good guy characters, but I think that for whatever reason those aren't written as often. But those are always really interesting to me. Then flip side, are there any fictional characters that people you know have said you're very similar to? So this is just to keep it brief. It's funny because when I used to have my character profile as Law, it's because lots of people, it's because I felt that that was the personality type from One Piece that kind of fit what the channel's vibe was. And a lot of people also, it was a feedback loop where a lot of people also felt like, oh, that fits your brand quite a bit to be doing it off of Law, right? So I can dislike the character, but I still feel like the personality type or the general vibe can fit in a way, basically. So that's a One Piece pick for that, if that makes sense. Martin Hava07, thanks a lot. Hey, Mr. Gorgeous Morj. Thank you. Will we see Arlong again? Imagine his reaction to the Gyojins living in the surface, or himself riding the Ferris wheel at Saboti Park like he wished as a kid. I don't want to see happiness for Arlong, because just what he did was too cruel over time. You know, he's just not it's just one step removed from Horty, basically. It's the same way I don't want to see Horty experience happiness in any way. I'm okay with us never seeing Arlong again. One thing that I really would love to see, but I know it's just never going to happen because it's just not the way things are, but I would love to see end a story. It's the Pirate King's crew, like they're all disbanded or whatever. They go back to their wherever they want to go. And now they're obviously super strong because they're the Pirate King's crew. I would love to see Nami be able to go back to, this is just a fantasy scenario. For some reason, Arlong has gotten loose in Kokoyashi Village again for whatever reason. Just for whatever reason. Headcanon your reason. And then Nami, I would just love for her to be able to just stroll back over to Arlong Park and just solo Arlong and his entire crew or something like that. Easily, without breaking a sweat. That's obviously like a complete fantasy. It just makes no sense. Why would Oda have Arlong and his crew just break free again and then go after Kokoyashi Village again? But it would be so satisfying. Because it's just like, it's crazy, like Nami back then needed to be helped. She couldn't do anything. But it's interesting, you know, give it 2 years, and at this point she would wipe the floor with Arlong, right? If Nami now was in the village, it would just be no problem whatsoever, you know? So, I don't know. I feel like that would be very satisfying, but that's of course never going to happen. I feel like, yeah, she's the only Straw Hat that really has a situation like that where I guess Usopp and Kuro kind of, but even Usopp got to be much more impactful in the Kuro fight. That was one thing, like Nami was never impactful in the Arlong fight because it's partly the point. She was relying on the help of others for the first time. But it would just be cool to, and like Usopp and Kuro, they didn't really have much of a dynamic compared to Nami and Arlong. Obviously Usopp didn't like Clahodo the butler, but he only really found out how evil he was like one day before they defeated him. Whereas Arlong had tormented Nami for years and years and years and killed her mother and enslaved everyone she loved. It would just be very satisfying to be able to see Nami do something to him down the line. But obviously that's just, it's a fantasy thing. That's fan fiction. That's not going to happen. JP, thank you so much for the 50. Holy shit, man. And we're probably going to end stream on this one. Thank you so much. Congrats on 200k. Missed last stream. No worries at all. In 2018, you made a Whole Cake Island analysis. It autoplayed and it helped me fall asleep because of your calm voice. Thanks so much. I'm sorry. I'm going to take helping you fall asleep. I'm going to take that as a compliment because I think it is because of my calm voice. After a week of using it as a sleep aid, I realized, wait, this video is good. Okay, I'll take the whole thing as a compliment. That's funny. I've followed you since. That. All right. I'm glad that I was able to function first as a sleep aid and then eventually as as actual entertainment. That's funny. Kid Spikin says she could have maybe beaten him by any slobby. No. It's always hard to scale Nami and Usopp, especially pre-time skip, because it's kind of just how a fight is written. Because I would say that Khalifa stronger than Arlong. Like Khalifa should beat Arlong, but that doesn't mean that Nami would beat Arlong. Because if you go back and look at the Nami Khalifa fight, a lot of it is basically Khalifa being extremely like Nami shouldn't have won that fight if Khalifa was being very serious, because you got to remember Nami was literally like helpless and defeated by Khalifa pretty much on the floor, and then Khalifa went and took a bath in the middle of the fight because she was taking it so unseriously. So it's not like Nami can really beat Khalifa straight up. So I wouldn't extrapolate to, like, ultimately as a fighter, Nami is not that strong. It relies, like, pre-time skip, it relies a lot on the opponent underestimating her, giving her a lot of lucky breaks or little windows where she can set things up, things like that. I think in a straight fight, I don't know if even any slobby Nami could have necessarily beaten Arlong if Arlong was intent on killing her early on. Alright, guys. Alright. I mean, I don't know. I think it's hard to compare. Like, it's just hard to scale, like, pre-time skip stuff. Like, how would this East Blue villain do against, Nami, any slobby? I don't know. You could probably make an argument either way. Nami these days would destroy Arlong, for sure. Alright, guys. We are going to call it here. We're going to call the stream here. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys are enjoying your Thanksgiving dinners, days, and if you didn't have anything to do with it on Thanksgiving, then I hope you were able to enjoy this instead, and this was like a fun Thanksgiving activity for you instead. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody, United States or not. Obviously, whether you celebrate it or not, it's just a thing. So yeah, I will talk to you all later. Peace.